Part 1 began quietly, without drama or noise, the kind of beginning that feels harmless until it isn't. Claire lived a simple, steady life in a quiet American suburb, married to Daniel, a man she trusted and loved in a calm, grown way that came from years of shared mornings and small routines. One ordinary Sunday, while light moved softly through the kitchen window and the coffee machine hummed, Claire noticed something she had never named before. It was not a moment, but a pattern. Emily, her close friend and co-worker, had been around more often lately, always finding a reason to stop by, always staying a little longer than needed. Claire watched as Emily laughed a bit too quickly at Daniel's jokes, asked him questions that went deeper than polite interest, and listened to him with a focus that felt personal. Nothing was said, nothing crossed a line, yet the air felt different. Claire felt it in the pauses, in the glances that slipped away when noticed, in the way Emily's smile softened when Daniel spoke. Claire tried to brush it off, telling herself she was being unfair, that friendship and kindness could look like many things. But her heart stayed alert. Over the next few days, the feeling followed her everywhere, growing sharper, clearer. At a small gathering with friends, Claire caught Emily watching Daniel from across the room, not boldly, but quietly, as if protecting a private wish. Claire felt a strange mix of sadness and calm, realizing this was not about betrayal, but about unspoken desire. She did not feel anger toward Emily, nor doubt toward Daniel, only a deep need to face the truth before it turned into something heavier. Claire understood that ignoring the feeling would not make it disappear. Love, she believed, needed honesty to survive, even when honesty was uncomfortable. That night, as she lay beside Daniel, listening to his steady breathing, Claire made a decision that felt risky but necessary. She would not accuse, she would not fight, and she would not run from the truth. Instead, she would invite it into the open, where it could no longer hide. The next morning, with a steady voice and a thoughtful heart, Claire sent Emily a simple message, inviting her over for dinner. It looked like a normal invitation, polite and friendly, but beneath it lived a quiet challenge. Claire knew that once Emily stepped into her home, something unspoken would finally be forced to reveal itself. And in that moment, Claire understood that this was the beginning of a change she could not stop, only face. A Friday evening when Emily arrived at Claire and Daniel's home, carrying a bottle of wine and a nervous smile that barely masked her unease. The door closed behind her, and for a moment, the house felt different, charged with anticipation that no one spoke aloud. Daniel greeted her warmly, unaware of the silent tension hanging in the air, while Claire moved through the kitchen with calm precision, pouring drinks and arranging the table. Dinner started normally, full of polite conversation and laughter that brushed the edges of something unspoken, the kind of laughter that fills silence but cannot hide the truth. Claire watched Emily closely, noting the way she leaned in slightly toward Daniel, how her eyes softened when he spoke, and how her gestures carried a subtle attention that had always made Claire uncomfortable. Daniel remained kind and engaged, oblivious to the quiet storm unfolding at the table. When dinner ended, Daniel stepped outside to take a phone call, leaving Claire and Emily alone in the living room, a hum of the house suddenly heavy. Claire poured tea for both of them and asked a question she had rehearsed in her mind but never spoken aloud. "Emily, how long have you felt this way?" The room seemed to pause. Emily's face froze for a moment, a shadow of fear and relief passing across it, before she whispered an answer filled with honesty and remorse. She admitted her feelings, confessed that she never intended to act on them, and expressed guilt for the quiet longing that had grown over time. Claire listened, steady and composed, letting the words land without anger, without accusation, understanding that some truths could only be spoken and not fixed. Emily's eyes filled with tears, not the dramatic kind, but quiet and sincere, and she apologized, her voice trembling with regret. Claire felt a mix of emotions: sadness for the shift in her friendship, relief at the honesty, and a strange sense of control over a situation that had felt dangerous only in the imagination. They finished their tea in silence, a quiet understanding passing between them that nothing would ever be the same, but that clarity had arrived. Emily left earlier than usual, careful and quiet, leaving Claire to process the weight of truth in the empty room. When Daniel returned from his call, he walked in unaware of the revelation that had occurred, greeting them both with casual warmth, and Claire held the secret gently, knowing that what had begun as a simple dinner invitation had already changed the dynamics of their lives. That night, as Claire lay in bed beside Daniel, she reflected on the conversation, realizing that inviting Emily over had forced honesty into the open, and that while the tension had not ended, the first step toward understanding, and perhaps healing, had been taken. The house was quiet, but the truth, once whispered, would linger in every glance, every laugh, and every choice in the days to come, setting the stage for challenges, reflections, and the unexpected growth that only honesty could bring. The morning after Emily's visit, with a quiet tension that hung in the air like a fog, Claire had spent the night turning every feeling over in her mind, weighing honesty against the comfort of routine, and she realized that waiting any longer to speak with Daniel would only allow uncertainty to fester. Over breakfast, with sunlight spilling through the kitchen window and the smell of fresh toast in the air, she found the words she had avoided, her voice calm but firm as she began to explain everything Emily had admitted the night before. Daniel listened in stunned silence, his coffee cup paused midway to his lips, his eyes wide with a mix of disbelief and concern. He insisted immediately that he had never encouraged Emily in any way, that he had been completely unaware of her feelings, and that nothing had ever crossed a line between them. Claire believed him, though she felt a quiet ache in her chest, the kind of ache that comes not from betrayal, but from the realization that love is fragile and must be nurtured with care and constant awareness. The following days were awkward yet intimate in their own way. Claire noticed Daniel more acutely, how he moved around the house, how he smiled when she entered the room, how his words carried warmth that reassured her even while the memory of Emily lingered. She understood that trust was not destroyed overnight, it faded slowly, and rebuilding it required patience, attention, and deliberate choice. Daniel, for his part, made a quiet effort to show Claire that his commitment was unwavering, small gestures of love, thoughtful remarks, and moments of gentle connection that reminded Claire why they had built a life together. Emily, respecting the unspoken boundaries Claire had set, stopped calling, and the friendship quietly dissolved, leaving a space that was heavy with absence but also with relief. Claire grappled with a mixture of emotions, sadness for the loss of a friendship, relief that no betrayal had occurred, and a cautious optimism that their marriage could emerge stronger. She realized that love was not proven by avoiding temptation or never facing challenges, but by choosing honesty and reaffirming commitment in the face of uncertainty. Nights became reflective, with Claire and Daniel sitting on the porch, sharing quiet conversations and long silences, the kind that carry understanding and trust without words. Claire felt herself growing in emotional strength, learning that clarity, even when painful, was necessary for a lasting bond. She acknowledged that the truth had shifted something fundamental in their lives. Innocence had been lost, yes, but the opportunity to deepen love and mutual respect had emerged. Daniel often reached for her hand, a simple gesture that spoke volumes, and Claire responded with quiet warmth, allowing herself to feel the love that had been tested but remained intact. Life continued with its ordinary rhythms, work, meals, errands, but the emotional landscape had changed. Every glance, every touch, every conversation carried a new depth of awareness. Claire realized that inviting Emily over had not been an act of confrontation, but of courage, a willingness to face discomfort to protect what truly mattered. She reflected on the nature of human emotions, how desire, attraction, and affection could emerge unexpectedly, and how handling these feelings with honesty could prevent harm rather than cause it. Each day, Claire found herself appreciating Daniel more, noticing his patience, his thoughtfulness, and the subtle ways he showed care without grand gestures. The intimacy of shared understanding, built on the foundation of truth, began to feel more profound than the easy comfort of untested routines. They laughed more freely, spoke more openly, and even in moments of quiet tension, there was a sense of security, a knowledge that they could navigate challenges together. Claire acknowledged that the situation with Emily had been a test not of Daniel's love, but of their marriage's resilience and her own capacity for trust and forgiveness. By facing the truth rather than avoiding it, she had given their relationship a chance to grow, and she felt a quiet pride in the strength she had found within herself. Nights were still reflective, and sometimes the memory of Emily's soft confession surfaced, but it no longer caused fear or anger, only a recognition of the complexity of human relationships and the importance of clear boundaries. Daniel's reassurances were gentle and consistent, small acts of devotion that reinforced the message that their marriage was his priority, and Claire allowed herself to be vulnerable, to accept love without suspicion, and to rebuild the emotional closeness that had always been their strength. Over time, Claire noticed a subtle shift in her own perspective. Where there had once been uncertainty, there was clarity. Where doubt had whispered, trust now spoke. She realized that love is not just passion or romance, but a deliberate choice made every day, reinforced by honesty, respect, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. By the end of the part, Claire felt a mixture of relief and quiet satisfaction. The test with Emily had ended, the lines were clear, and though some emotional scars remained, they were marks of growth rather than damage. Claire understood that life would always present challenges, that human emotions are unpredictable, and that the true measure of love is not avoiding tests but responding to them with courage, integrity, and commitment. And as she held Daniel's hand one evening, watching the sky darken over their quiet neighborhood, she knew that inviting Emily over, facing the truth, and choosing to trust had changed their marriage for the better, creating a bond that was deeper, more honest, and more resilient than ever before, a bond that would carry them forward through all the quiet and loud moments life would bring. Months later, on a crisp autumn afternoon, when Claire ran into Emily unexpectedly at a local bookstore, a place filled with the smell of paper and quiet chatter. Emily looked older somehow, calmer, carrying the air of someone who had made peace with choices she once struggled to face. They paused between the shelves, hesitating for a moment, a space heavy with unspoken history and mutual understanding. Emily spoke first, her voice soft but steady, explaining that she had moved to Seattle, needing a fresh start, a life away from the memories and emotions tied to Claire and Daniel. Claire listened, nodding gently, feeling neither anger nor jealousy, only a quiet relief and a strange sense of closure. They exchanged polite words, the kind that acknowledged the past without lingering in it, and Claire realized that the chapter of friendship and hidden desire had finally ended, leaving behind clarity instead of conflict. That evening, back at home, Claire and Daniel sat together on their porch, the sky painted with streaks of orange and pink, the world calm around them. Daniel reached for her hand, smiling gently, and said, "We survived this, didn't we?" Claire smiled back, feeling warmth bloom in her chest, a mixture of relief, love, and quiet pride. She realized that inviting Emily over, facing the unspoken truth, and choosing honesty had not destroyed their marriage, it had strengthened it, building a deeper understanding, a connection forged through trust and resilience. Life returned to its ordinary rhythm: work, dinners, walks, but everything felt more meaningful because they had faced something difficult together. Claire reflected on the lessons learned. Love is tested in subtle ways, honesty matters more than comfort, and true commitment is about choice, care, and courage in moments that feel uncertain. She felt gratitude for the strength she and Daniel had shown, knowing that some doors, once opened, lead not to ruin but to growth. Their marriage had changed, matured, and deepened. It was not perfect, but it was real, honest, and strong. Claire understood that the outcome she had feared, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the scandal, had never happened because she had acted with clarity and courage. The truth had been spoken, boundaries had been respected, and love had endured. As night fell and the first stars appeared, Claire and Daniel sat quietly, hands entwined, feeling the calm certainty of partnership and trust. There was no drama, no lingering tension, only a shared understanding that they had survived a challenge together and emerged stronger. The encounter with Emily became a memory, a gentle reminder of human complexity, of attraction and longing, of choices made and lessons learned. Claire realized that sometimes the most dramatic moments in life do not explode in chaos but settle quietly, leaving clarity, freedom, and the deep satisfaction of knowing that honesty and love can coexist. They talked little that night, not needing words, because the connection between them was renewed, strong, and unshakable. Claire understood that this outcome, peaceful yet powerful, was a gift, proof that facing difficult truths with courage and grace can heal rather than harm, and that love built on trust and honesty can survive even the quietest storms. She felt a sense of peace she had never known before, a calm that came from choosing integrity over fear, compassion over resentment, and connection over suspicion. Claire realized that life would continue to bring tests and challenges, but now she knew how to navigate them, with honesty, with courage, and with love that chooses to endure. The night grew deep and quiet around them, but inside, Claire's heart felt full, her marriage strengthened, and her spirit lighter, knowing that the most unexpected outcomes can sometimes be the ones that bring the greatest clarity and the truest joy. And in that calm, under the stars, Claire and Daniel simply held each other, letting the past settle, embracing the present, and stepping into the future together, stronger, wiser, and more deeply in love than ever before. Read the whole story each part and answer me: is this story safe and secure for YouTube monetization policies? I am going to make this story in a video, so tell me, is this according to YouTube monetization policies? Tell me everything. Can I upload this on YouTube? Also give me 5 YouTube optimized titles best for above story, and also 5 text which I can upload on thumbnail to attractive people. All according to YouTube policies. I've carefully reviewed the full story in all 4 parts. Here's a detailed analysis regarding YouTube monetization policies, along with optimized titles and thumbnail texts. 1. Safety and monetization analysis. Content review. No explicit content. The story contains emotional tension, attraction, and inner conflict but does not include sexual scenes, graphic content, or nudity. No violence or abuse. There are no violent acts, physical confrontations, or abusive behavior. No hate speech or harmful content. The story does not promote discrimination, harassment, or harm toward anyone. Mature but clean themes. It deals with emotional complexity, love, trust, and relational tension, which are suitable for a mature audience while remaining appropriate for general content. Romantic and dramatic tension. The story has heartbreak, longing, and personal growth. These are safe for storytelling channels and align with YouTube's G and PG content standards for monetization. Monetization safety, white heavy checkmark. You can safely upload this story on YouTube with monetization enabled. There's no adult or harmful content that would cause demonetization. Ensure your thumb.